The Yoga Sutras of Pantajali, Book 1, Sutra 11, which is about memory. And this is part of the comparative study course by Dr. Lisa Love, drawing from her own insights, as well as from 3 books on the Yoga Sutras, one by B.K.S. Iyengar, the other by Swami Satchidananda, and the third called The Light of the Soul by Alice Bailey. So let's look at how our 3 authors interpret this sutra. Starting with Swami Satchidananda, when a mental modification of an object previously experienced and not forgotten comes back to consciousness, that is memory. B.K.S. Iyengar says memory is the unmodified recollection of words and experiences, and Alice Bailey says memory is the holding on to that which has been known. So let's go into a simple interpretation, my interpretation of what these sutras mean. And as a reminder, we are looking at 5 mental modifications of the mind. That's what we've been going through in the previous sutras. They are correct knowledge, illusion, delusion, also known as fancy or glamour, sleep, and finally in this sutra, memory. And except for correct knowledge, these modifications can all interfere with yoga or union with the self. Now, at all times, we are that self. We simply do not realize it, or to say it more appropriately, we forget it, and we need to remember or rejoin. That's a definition of yoga. We need to rejoin with this self. So in this sutra, we begin to examine how memory interferes with that process of self-realization or constant remembrance, notice the word memory and remembrance, of who we are. Now the natural question arises then, how does memory interfere with that self-remembrance? Also, is memory as a mental modification really a bad thing? I mean, are we supposed to get rid of memory and just be in a state of constant Alzheimer's? Hardly. As we will see in the interpretation of this sutra, it is really about the right use of memory. Obviously, we need some memory. Learning is essential, and it would serve no purpose to wake up every day and have to relearn everything we know. In fact, it's a very good thing that a lot of learning becomes automatic. How to eat, dress, take care of our physical bodies, drive a car, pay our bills, find a job, pick a healthy partner, all of this and more is good to learn, and especially to learn well. The problem is more with conditioned learning and are getting stuck in what we believe to be so. Then we can no longer unlearn what we have learned, so we can be open to something new. That's one of the problems with memory in terms of conditioning. We're stuck. We can't learn something new. So in many ways, this sutra is about seeing and breaking through conditioned responses, especially in regards to how we can no longer see who we really are as the self, or what I call the peaceful self. Now, there is a final way to look at this sutra, which has to do with the appropriate balance between past, present, and future. It's true. There is really nothing but this moment, this now. But this now is often conditioned by the past, and it is influenced by our desires and worries about the future. This sutra is not saying that we should have no memory of the past and just live like an Alzheimer's patient in the present moment, getting to the point where we even forget who we are. And it is not saying that we should have no intention for the future. It is saying that we need to live in this moment, and in doing so have a right kind of relationship to both past, present, and future. Regarding the past, in addition to freeing ourselves from conditioned responses that no longer serve us, we need to release traumas that keep us looping over the past without the ability to learn from it and be free from that trauma. Regarding the future, we need to set healthy intentions, aiming towards the future without neglecting the moment, allowing what is right now to be, while at the same time accessing in this moment the larger time-space perspective that comes from the self, what I call the peaceful self, so that what we do and who we know ourselves to be in this moment serves the larger whole and greater good that we are. So in summary, the right equation between past, present, and future lived within every moment so that memory serves us well and freeing ourselves from conditioned responses and traumatic events. Let's look at what our 3 different authors have to say. So Swami Satchidananda once again defined the Sanskrit as, when a mental modification of an object previously experienced and not forgotten comes back to consciousness, that is memory. So it's not forgotten, it's in consciousness, that's memory. Seems simple enough. And he talks in his explanation, again, I encourage you to read the books and actually read what our authors have to say. I greatly summarize a lot of their points. Sri Swami Satchidananda talks about wanted and unwanted memories, as well as memories in the way of dreams and daydreams. You know, there's actually even research that's been done in our modern day times that shows that when we have a foundation of wanted memories, good memories, then we tend to live more within the present moment. We're free from those traumas. We're free from those unwanted memories. And in terms of our dreams and daydreams, we tend to have healthier dreams or daydreams or thoughts created in this moment that serve the larger self that we are by remembering and affirming that self in the moment. So that is a lot of what Sri Swami Satchidananda is asking us to aim for, creating those wanted memories and the right use of memory in the way of dreams and daydreams. And beyond this, he has very little to say, except for repeating the notion that the point is to learn to control our minds instead of being controlled by our minds in regards to these mind modifications. So again, we learn to choose what we will remember. We learn how to frame or reframe the events that have happened to us in a way that serves who we really are as the self. We control our mind so we can master that memory. So here is Iyengar's interpretation of the Sanskrit. Memory is the unmodified recollection of words and experiences. And it's interesting to see his version as using the word unmodified. You know, I've read 10 different versions from different authors of the Yoga Sutras of Pantajali, and it's always interesting to see these subtle variations. But so in Iyengar's interpretation, unmodified is very important, and that's because he sees memory, when rightly used, as showing us how, as, quote, perception changes, memory too may alter, but correctly used, it enables us to recall experiences in their true, pristine state, end of quote. So for him, there's something important about remembering it as it was really said, as the words were really said, as it was really experienced. Now, there's some truth to that, but even if we had a visual video of it, or if we had an audio history of what was said, we would still notice that the way we interpret it may alter or frame what it is that we're getting out of that moment. So is it really possible to experience something in its true, pristine state? I personally have a question with that, because always the observer, in my opinion, starts to alter what is being observed, starts to put its spin on it, its conscious understanding of it in this moment and what that means, like listening to words of a song. There are words that I heard when I was a teenager that I was clueless what those words were really insinuating, that as an adult with a different level of understanding, I hear those words and they have a whole nother meaning and context to them. So it is true that maybe we can recall something in a pristine state in terms of the exact words or the exact image, but always, in my opinion, there will be some alteration of it depending on the consciousness and the observer who's doing the observation. So then he goes on to describe 5 fluctuations of consciousness. And I do not know Sanskrit, but I will do my best. Dullness is the same as nidra. Nidra is sometimes also used to mean sleep. So there is dullness, negligence, and that's viparyaya, agitation with vikalpa, one-pointedness with, I do not know how to say that word, smrti, and restraint and control with pramana. So he is emphasizing that in relationship to memory, we can be dull with our memory, we can be negligent, memory can do something that agitates us, we can be one-pointed and focused, and we can restrain and control that memory. So these are 5 ways that we can use consciousness to approach memory. So here's Alice Bailey's definition of the sutra. Memory is the holding on to that which has been known. Something that you're holding on. Again, there's not that idea of the right level of recollection that Iyengar emphasized. It is rather you're holding on to something. And whereas Iyengar gives us 5 ways to approach memory, Alice Bailey mentions 6 types of memory, which in many ways these types of memory move in a succession. So they are, first of all, memory of tangible physical things. So you hear the audio recording and you see the video, and it is a memory of what you look like at that moment in time, in that picture at that age, or what it was like in that video. Memory of tangible physical things, you bring it up in your mind and you remember it as being like this. But another one is memory related to satisfaction of desires. You may replay in your mind the things that you got that you wanted. This is like Swami Satchidananda's memory is wanted or unwanted. So you replay the way that your desires were satisfied, or maybe you replay that they weren't satisfied, or the way that you were traumatized by them. This has more of an emotional component to them. So we have physical memory, emotional memory. 3 is memory of knowledge acquired. So you read these books and you take these tests and you have to spit the facts back out. That relates to Bailey's mental memory, which is actually more at the level of concrete knowledge, factual knowledge. And then you have memory related to the 5 senses. This is what we see, taste, hear, smell, touch. And a lot of that becomes automatic memory that just helps us navigate through life, though Alice Bailey, in some of her other books, like Treatise on Cosmic Fire and Esoteric Psychology 2, talks about how the 5 senses are extended along the different levels of consciousness into different levels of sensing or perceiving. Then we have number 5, memory evoked by the right use of the 6th sense. Now that 6th sense, in a way, relates to the sutra, in the Yoga Sutras of Pantajali, of correct knowledge. So it is beyond simply mental, emotional, physical, instinctual memory of the senses, etc. It is a seeing who you really are. It gets into the remembering who you really are as the self. And finally, memory related to the soul and its experiences gained through many incarnations and stored in the consciousness of the soul. When we remember who we are as the self, or what I call the peaceful self, or here she's calling that the soul, we have a larger sense of now. Now isn't just simply the second in time. Time takes on a whole different orientation. It has a whole different sense of space about it. The moment may be lifetimes in a moment instead of this second or millisecond in a moment. And so Alice Bailey's slant I really like here in terms of the Yoga Sutras. I often like her slant the best of many of the versions I've read, because it's saying that memory, in terms of a mind modification, does not serve us if all we're doing is just simply remembering ourselves as an isolated, individualized, separated personality who knows how to get by in the world because we have mental facts and emotional desires we remember or didn't get satisfied that we're trying to get satisfied, or, tangible physical things, our experience in the 5 senses. None of that is really relevant to yoga, to union with the self. That is about using the 6th sense to remember who we really are and to gain access to that knowing, you could call it in a way, memory of the soul, of the peaceful self, of who we really are. And that is an entirely different way to approach this sutra. So that gives you a brief understanding of the sutra. And as always, I create a meditation to go with the sutra so you can practice it, because ultimately it's about practicing it, not just learning about it. So find the meditation past, present, and future to further your understanding of the sutra. And as a reminder, our work together, what I recommend is you go through these sutras. First of all, obtain copies of the 3 books we're using so that you can get your own impressions and a more complete understanding of what each author has to say in each sutra. It's important for you to condense your own understanding, and it may be a little different from mine. Second, attempt to work with only 1 sutra a week. Again, this is not supposed to be let me drill through this as fast as I can so I get mental understanding. That's not how you're going to get understanding, which is a property of buddhi. You're going to get it through practicing meditation and getting through the different levels of samadhi to develop those higher levels of consciousness. 3, follow the meditations for each sutra many times during the week. Again, the point is to practice, not just study. And if you're taking the course with me, you're welcome to share your questions, comments, and experiences. And I will answer as best I can. And finally, information to work with me directly follows.